Well. We've heard it again. Pete Nakos putting his quarterback out there for the West Virginia Mountaineers. And I've got some audio you'll want to hear of Rich Rodriguez absolutely gushing over quarterback one in Morgantown. Yeah.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Lucas Hill. What is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host here, and we'd love to welcome you back into Locked On West Virginia, where we're talking Mountaineer football again today, fellas, and we're excited, ladies too, of course, to talk about it. And thank you for making us your first listen again today, guys, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we love talking about your free people, the Mountaineers, every single day. Going to be brought to you today by FanDuel, and checking out FanDuel right now if you didn't know. The biggest stage in world soccer is here. So let there be goals on FanDuel today. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Let's do it today. All right, joining today's show is none other than the legendary man himself from the Southern sports scene, a guy that is a Mike Hawkins believer, I believe, Lucas Hill.
A legend is a very strong word, Paul, but thank you for having
a legend,
me
dog.
Once again, brother. I really appreciate it.
Look at all those lanyards behind you. You're a legend for sure.
I'm 22 years old. Hey, I can just consider myself lucky and just hardworking. That's all I can really say.
There it is. All right, so lots of stuff to get to. I'm going to play some audio to start here because I think it gives us some context. Pete Nakos has put out his starting quarterback projections for West Virginia. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be asking Lucas, can this offense be elite? Elite means top 10 to me, right? If once you get outside the top 10, then I start to think very, very good, right? Once you get into the top 30, it's like, okay, they're really good on offense. Like I have a little in my head, elite, you have to be inside the top 10. So can this Mountaineer team give you a top 10 offense this year? After you hear Rich Rodriguez talk, you might believe it. So we're going to play a clip from
our offense. Of course, I've seen Mike, knew about him, and love what he did in the spring. You know, he's kind of a quieter guy in a lot of ways.
Very, yeah.
But he's ultra competitive, can run, can throw. And you know what I found out through spring, which you don't really know till you have him, is his decisiveness was really good, especially for the first time in our system. And typically, when they're learning, they'll hesitate a little bit. But Mike was really decisive, both in the run and the pass game. So that was really skilled. And I thought as the spring went on, he got really, really comfortable. So I'm excited for him. I think he can do great things for us.
He's having a hard time, in my opinion, holding back right here, right? Gushing a little bit. And he went on from there.
He was highly productive, the leading rusher in the country. And excited for him. I think he can do great things for us.
I've known him for a long time. Obviously, I told you I recruited his dad back at R.L. Turner High School to come up and play defensive back for us at OU long time ago. And I've stayed in contact with the dad quite a bit. And especially when he was through OU, you'll have a hard time finding anybody that's going to work harder and put the time in.
Oh, and then Malik, his brother's there too.
Exactly.
He's a good athlete.
He's a good athlete too.
He had a good spring, and so he's been coached. He's been raised up, not jerked up. You know
exactly.
what I mean? And, the work ethic that he has, and it's really important to him. So I'm really excited. He's got 3 years left too.
I know.
So with him and Scotty and a couple of the freshmen we got, our quarterback room last year got crazy because we had so many injuries. We got to by the fifth game, we were playing our fifth quarterback. It was crazy. So just one of those bad luck years. But I feel really good especially with Mike being here now. Excited for him.
I feel really good, especially with Mike being here now. And, I think it's pretty safe to say that he was gushing right there, wasn't he, Lucas?
I would be too if I had an actual answer between two quarterbacks, especially when it comes to a veteran that returns in Scotty Fox, and you also have a guy that's a phenomenal athlete in Mike Hawkins, highly recruited coming out of high school, can run this Rich Rod system to a T. I think he is the ideal quarterback that you would expect. I do, however, kind of have a sinking feeling that Scotty Fox is going to find himself in playing time situations at some point during the year. But I do also believe that Mike Hawkins is just going to be the starter at the beginning of this season. Like I mentioned, I think when you pair him alongside with Cam Cook, that spread option offense is going to be really, really solid. The one thing that does concern me is his completion percentage. He's worked on that a good bit from the offseason, from what I have heard. Heard that he's been doing better with his communication with his receivers, coming up with hot routes, building that chemistry that he needs to have with a team like West Virginia that likes to chuck the football down the field, that has a history of doing that with elite offenses. I think that if you can take the small steps going forward, take your small wins here and there throughout fall camp as you get to approach that period where the season is going to be right around the corner, I think he's going to be able to take the next step forward and truly be a really good quarterback in the Big 12.
Yeah, and thank you to WWLS The Sports Animal for the clips there. Great job by them there at Media Days. Rich Rod had more to say, though, and we'll get to that in a minute. We'll play another clip for you. But I want to look at a couple of plays from Mike Hawkins Jr. as well here with you, Lucas, just to kind of drive the point home. Everybody's seen, for the most part, most everybody's seen, I think, for the most part, what Hawkins can do. If you've been watching West Virginia at all, since he came, I'm sure you probably clicked on some YouTube highlights of Mike Hawkins Jr., right? So I get that 100%. So it's not like I'm probably going to be I don't expect to be breaking new ground here, but there are some plays from his high school days that I could show, as well as we can always watch that Oklahoma game with against Auburn. Just incredible. He just continues to be an absolute incredible runner of the football. So we'll play a couple of clips here just to kind of drive home the point of what I think he can be in this offense, because he's such a good runner. Obviously, the obvious play to show first is the Auburn one, so we'll go there first. So obviously,
what's so funny about that play too is when you have the rush come in, it's not like he panics in the pocket, recognizes the hole that's open between the guard and tackle, and just shoots through. He's faster than anyone else on the field. He knows that he is, and he has that recognition and that IQ to recognize when a play is breaking down, stepping up. If it ain't there, F it and go.
Yeah, and it was like in that game specifically, Auburn kept twisting because Oklahoma couldn't block it. And so they just, fine, I'll just, instead of hitting that thing out in the flat, we'll just take this pretty easy stuff. Carson Fox says he's going to join us here in a minute, which is cool. I like Carson a lot. He's a good guy. And here's the end of that play, I think.
It's against a DJ Durkin defense, too. And I think that's really impressive, and I think that's really notable because we're talking about one of the better defensive coordinators in the SEC and who does a really good job of disguising different blitz packages. Front seven has always been a point of emphasis from his defenses. For Mike to have that sort of explosiveness when he got to the 20, that's impressive to see, especially from him going in his freshman year at the time. It was almost like he turned into another gear as soon as he gets into that second level.
Joining us here, obviously, from a good friend of the show as well, Fox on Mountaineer Sports, is Carson Fox, man. Welcome in. Love the hat from Myrtle Beach, I hear.
Paul, it's a Mountaineer's paradise, but I got to say, I'm in the wild providing reconnaissance for the West Virginia football program on West Virginia's week 1 opponent against Coastal Carolina. So trying to take in Ryan Beard's team, trying to jump fences, low security there at Brooksfield. So I think I got all the intel that I need to know for week 1 against West Virginia's opponent. So
Pete Nakos naming Michael Hawkins Jr. his starter for West Virginia going into the season. Rich Rod, if you didn't hear did you hear the beginning of the show, Carson?
No, but I am so ready to talk about Mike Hawkins. Let's get into this.
Yeah. So we've already played it, but basically it was Rich Rod saying, look, not only was he really good during spring, by the end of the spring, he had really come on and become more decisive, and a bunch of other things that would make you think like, wow, he's really enjoying him some Mike Hawkins Jr. right now. So since we're at 10 minutes, we may as well just hit this first break. We'll come back out of this, and we'll jump right back into this with Lucas Hill, Carson Fox. We'll be right back here on Locked On West Virginia. Our friends from FanDuel say hello. And look, when it comes to FanDuel, I think at the end of the day, you have to realize they're killing the game right now. They absolutely have it going on at FanDuel for many, many reasons. And on the biggest stages in the world, FanDuel is changing the game because sometimes your player gets subbed off and your bet goes with it, but not anymore. With FanDuel's super sub system, if your player subbed out, your bet's going to stay right there, which is awesome. And if your player leaves the match, your bet continues on with the substitute. So you're still in until the final whistle. In matches like these, anything can happen. And now your bet can go the distance. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel today. And look, we might as well talk about Mike Hawkins now since we're talking about him on this show. You know, unfortunately, he didn't get his opportunities at Oklahoma, maybe as he should because of the player in front of him. And nothing is worse than having a great pick sit on the bench like Mike Hawkins. So if you want to watch your player go on and play in the game, or let's say he's in the game and he gets pulled at the 60th minute with super sub, that bet doesn't die. It goes the distance with the sub. Good things, right? Let there be goals this summer with FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, where you're going to go and hang out with a bunch of people like you that love the sports scene. That's right, FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON to get started, and you can do that today. And back in segment 2, where I am going to pass it back over to you, Carson Fox. Basically, like I said, the initial clip was Rich Rodriguez gushing over Mike Hawkins Jr. And Nico Nakos has named him that starter. I know you're a big Hawkins guy yourself.
Well, I found it a little bit odd, but maybe I shouldn't have. I should have read between the lines, Paul, back when I was at the Spring Festival. And every time Mike Hawkins tried to make a play outside the pocket with his legs, the referees were either blowing it dead, they were very cautious with him taking contact. But when Scotty Fox would do the same, and Scotty Fox was, I think, still wearing the same brace that he had to end the 2025 season, he was taking off and running. So it really didn't matter, you know, how the way that Scotty Fox was being treated in that performance. I know that's just a spring game, but it just seemed like the coaching staff was, I don't know, keeping training wheels might be the right word on Hawkins, or not wanting to fully unleash him, but kind of letting Scotty do whatever he wanted. But Scotty led that drive in that Spring Festival game really well down the field, executed a nice pass over the middle to DJ Epps, who ran it in for a touchdown. Hawkins later had a touchdown later in the game on a really deep pass, like 50-some yards down the sideline. But I don't think that there was anything from that performance that gave way to Scotty has definitely emerged as the incumbent or the leader that's going to be starting week 1. Or is Hawkins taking away? Until I read it in Athlon, and now it just seems like since Big 12 media days, something's going on behind the scenes in the locker room that we as fans really aren't privy to that information unless we're at practice ourselves. So I guess I should have known all along, but I don't think Scotty Fox has done anything to be usurped from the starting position.
No,
I like the way
not necessarily that.
Yeah.
It's more of a Mike Hawkins thing than it is a Scotty Fox thing, in my opinion. He's just.
But is he that much better than Scotty?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he is, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, if you want to talk about him as passers, you can make a case that it's closer. But as like Rich Rod said, his decisiveness, the things that he did during spring, very incredible. I think at the end of the day, you don't bring a guy like Hawkins over to sit the bench, right? And that's the thing. Like, he wasn't brought here to be the backup. And Rich Rod, I think is very well aware of that, Lucas. And as you said on the show a few weeks ago, you pair him with Cam Cook, you pair him with an elite offense. It could, or elite offensive line. If it gets there with Rick Trickett, it starts to get pretty cool to think about. Obviously, we'll play this last clip here from Rich Rod at Media Days, where he's talking about that offensive line, where he's talking about the receiver room, and you start to see the full picture. We'll get your opinion on this after this, Lucas.
Excited for him. I think he can do great things for us.
I've known him for a long time. Obviously, I told you I recruited his dad.
He was highly productive, the leading rusher in the country. Got a couple of receivers. 3 guys from Group of 5 starters that were all conference guys that are in our receiver room. We got 7 offensive linemen out of the portal, all had started games, which really helps. You mentioned Mike Hawkins come, and so we got a lot of guys that have started games and play games. They just are new to our system, and so as a coach, I told our guys, and this. Sometimes coaches want to be the smartest guy in the room and have all these fancy schemes. I said, we got to be freshman friendly. They might be 21 years old, not a freshman, but they're freshmen in our system.
That's right.
So let's not have the talented guy standing next to me on the sideline because he don't know what he's doing. That's our fault, not his.
That's right.
So we've simplified things a little bit on both sides of the ball and getting our guys to play fast.
Which is a smart thing to do with the number of turnover, no doubt. But, Lucas, when you consider that West Virginia did bring in 7 offensive linemen that have started in the Power 4 somewhere else, word out of camp is that it's probably going to be the best offensive line we've had at least since 2023, maybe even longer. If that's really true, let's go with the assumption that this is a very good to potentially elite offensive line. Bill Steele, who's pretty accurate guy, has him ranked 3rd in the Big 12. If that's the case, then what does this become with Cook and Hawkins?
Rick Trickett was around whenever during 01 from 01 to 06 when Rich Rod was still there, correct? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was there during the Slayton and White years. Was that an all-time great offensive line?
Yes.
Some could say yes. I say not really because he's had better offensive lines. Go look at what he did at Florida State for 10 years. Look at what he did with Dalvin Cook. Look at what that offensive line did blocking for Jameis Winston. Go look at what happened this past year with Cam Cook and how many guys followed Trickett out to West Virginia. I think they have the pieces to be a top 6 offensive line in the Big 12. Make no mistake about that. I think they have the pieces in place. You have a young guy who's going to be a tackle in Kevin Brown that's going to start immediately. I think that he has the intangibles possible to be a first-round type of tackle. He will probably go down as if all goes to plan, like I've been hearing around the spaces that like as you, Paul, and you as well, Carson. From what I'm hearing, he's probably going to go down as one of the better tackles that West Virginia has ever had.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised. I think he's a future top 50 draft pick. I think the kid is going to be really solid. He's going to be around the best offensive line coach in the Big 12, who's been around guys that have gone on to the next level. The rushing attack is going to take a step up. And I've heard people complain about or talk about the lack of depth that West Virginia has and so on and so forth. It wasn't like it was a bad portal class either. You bring in a guy in Cam Cook that was a damn near a 500-yard rusher at TCU, pops off for 1,600 this past year at J-State. You bring back the majority of roster who's now in Morgantown. Who's to say that he's not a 1,000-yard rusher? Who's to say that he doesn't end up being a first-team all-conference type of guy and really lead an offense that really can explode? It starts with the big boys up front. I think you have the depth and the coach there at the right time so that West Virginia can make these little improvements from an offensive line standpoint. I think that you're going to have a solid year where you're going to finish in the top half of the Big 12 in the rushing attack on the offensive side of the ball. We'll see what happens in pass protection. It's got to get better because you basically almost killed 4 quarterbacks this past year. So you have to make sure that that's a big point of emphasis. So Trickett in the mix. I definitely think that it's a massive step up for West Virginia. You get a guy that's been in Morgantown before, been with Coach Rodriguez before, understands the system, understands the different complexities that come with running a spread offense. I think this offensive line is going to be one of the best in the Big 12 when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and Carson, we study this in and out. I know Lucas does as well, but I know Lucas pays attention to a lot of other teams. We just have West Virginia. Mm-hmm. And what do we know about this offensive line unit? 3 players on this offensive line unit have never given up a sack in their career. We've got Carson Cassidy over how many thousand snaps did he play, UConn? Never given up a sack. It's incredible, right? 6'7", 310, going to be a dude. Everybody on that UConn in that program went up and moved up a level.
That UConn roster offense last year was top 25 nationally in offense.
Yeah, right, exactly. Wes King comes over from Wyoming, never given up a sack. Now it's at a lower level, so you have to concede that part of it. But certainly he's a guy that's moved himself into potentially, I hear, the starting role at center, beating out Livingston and obviously Griffin. And then obviously you talk about a guy in Devin Voss who I think still could work his way into the mix. I know he's going to be in the top 2 deep. Last 7 games of the year at K-State as a starter, was probably their first or second best O-lineman. Didn't give up a pressure or a sack in those last 7 games. West Virginia, I think, clearly realized that they need to be able to protect the quarterback, and they brought in more than one guy to do that. And that's before you add in the 2 all-conference guys from Jack State, right? So I think this – and then Nick Cray, they say, will be the best offensive lineman potentially. I don't want to say in the Big 12, but definitely at West Virginia this year. They're talking about him as an NFL guy, right? We've heard that all the last couple of weeks. What say you to that, and how excited did I just make you?
Really hard to compare. I feel like historically this offensive line versus the ones of the last 25 years because they haven't played together. I mean, let me know. I'll let you know by October, really, Paul, what I think. But depth, certainly there. I feel like 9 guys kind of interchangeably could be across the 2 deep, starting at potentially multiple positions. So to see Landon Livingston get bumped out of a starting job, according to Athlon, I was like, whoa. Is that a misprint right there for a guy who, came to Big 12 Media Days in 2025, started except for, I think, 1 game because of injury all last year. So that just means there's quality depth. And to have Coach Trickett back, I called him the Godfather for a reason whenever he got rehired. Lucas, going back to what you said about those Florida State lines, I'm telling you, in the mid-2000s there, when West Virginia had Dan Moses, Ryan Stanchek, Greg Isdinger, Jake Figner, I mean, going to ask that Georgia team they played in the Sugar Bowl, how good that West Virginia offensive line was.
I'm not doubting you. I was also born in 2004 as well. So I'm not old enough to remember any of those. I remember the Florida State offensive lines.
The Florida State offensive lines have more NFL talent than those offensive lines had. I think that's the big difference.
Right.
Every starter on that offensive line went to the NFL in 2013.
Right. But West Virginia's was probably a better – well, I want to say better, but it was an elite college offensive line.
Yeah, Selfish Capers got drafted. Josh Jenkins maybe late, I think, but he was like 2010, so maybe just was a freshman there. But regardless, I was probably the most excited Mountaineer fan of anybody out there that the Godfather, Rick Trickett, was back because of what Mountaineer Nation suffered through last year with Jack Bicknell. I mean, Paul's kind of enlightened me to what was going on and how tumultuous that it was. So I think the difference in that offensive line play is going to be the difference in at least 2 games this season. I feel like you can pencil in West Virginia at least getting back to 6-6 solely because the offensive line is going to be that good. In addition to what Hawkins is going to bring to the table. You were saying hope that he breaks 1,000. I was saying on a video a couple of weeks ago, I hope he could get back up to Wendell Smallwood of 2015. Smallwood ran for 1,500 yards in that 2015 season. West Virginia hasn't had a 1,000-yard back since Letty Brown in 2021. Before that, an 1,100-yard rusher and Justin Crawford in 2017. So, I mean, if you really think about it, and I've kind of kicked around the idea that West Virginia may lead the Power 4 in rushing like they did in 2023. So if that's the possibility, then I think Cam Cook's going to have to get closer 1,200 to 1,500 yards to be able to do so.
6-second break. We'll come right back, guys, and put our final thoughts on this. Guys, make sure you check out the Everyday program, please. It's lockedonwestvirginia.supercast.com. You get a one-on-one texting with me. You can definitely check out our Discord server inside there and more. It's well worth your time and well worth your privileges. So thank you guys so much for being here. You two, I appreciate both of you. Carson Fox, as well does a great job, obviously, talking about Mountaineer sports. And Lucas Hill does a great job in the Southern sports scene. Make sure you go hit the like, subscribe, and follow buttons on all of their channels. I guess subscribe and follow is the same thing, but if hit the notification bell, then how about that? They deserve that, and all that. So a couple other things I want to show here really quick is we've got some Hawkins from high school that I've been excited to talk about. And I did want to play that first clip of Rich Rod just back one more time for Carson and for other people, because I don't think this has only got like 1,000 views on it, this interview. And I don't think very many people have heard Rich Rod. I've listened to every Rich Rod clip out there. I promise. This is what I do all day, every day. This here really kind of took me back a little bit. I was not expecting this amount of praise. He doesn't give it freely. So I will play that clip one more time for Carson and others that are just getting in a little late.
He was highly productive, the leading rusher in the country, fit our offense. Of course, I seen Mike, knew about him, and love what he did in the spring. He's kind of a quieter guy in a lot of ways.
Very, yeah.
But he's ultra competitive, can run, can throw. And you know what I found out through spring, which you don't really know till you have him, is his decisiveness was really good, especially for the first time in our system. And typically, when they're learning, they'll hesitate a little bit. But Mike was really decisive, both in the run and the pass game. So that was really good. And I thought as the spring went on, he got really, really comfortable. So I'm excited for him. I think he can do great things for us.
Like I said, do great things for us. You would have to be the starter to do that. And I think that it's all signs point that way. As you guys know, I talk to a lot of people that are at practice. I obviously can't say names, but there are people that are allowed to be there. And it's been clear that Hawkins has taken a step and continues to do so. I think he's probably going to, in my opinion, I think he's going to be a lot better than people think. And I think there are people that think he's going to be pretty dynamic running the ball, and then we'll move the chains passing it here and there. I've seen several plays. He can throw it deep. He's got an incredible arm, especially if he doesn't get sped up. So I think there are a lot of things, Lucas, that he can do that could potentially – I'm not saying that they're going to have a Houston year where they go second year, 9-10 wins in the bowl game, but I think they can get to 8. And I think the reason is because Bill Still said yesterday or day before yesterday, he thinks West Virginia has a good shot at starting 6-1. When you look at the schedule, it lines up. And I think that's the main reason I'm so excited about this potential team and going forward. One other clip here from high school. We'll get back to Lucas.
Hawkins on the first play from scrimmage into South Lake Carroll territory, and he will take it 75 yards. Touchdown, Allen.
He even had if you'll notice here in this first play, you see how many people he had calling plays from the sideline in high school. A very advanced type offense, I think, for high school, which is, it's Texas. That's probably, Lucas probably can speak to that more than I can. Maybe that's more normal than I realize. But I think Hawkins, obviously, even going back to high school, pretty decisive guy. And obviously his ability to run the football has always been there. I like those plays like that. And you can go back and watch some plays against Tennessee. You can go watch some stuff against Auburn where he helicopters into the end zone. There's a play against Auburn where he puts his shoulder down and takes the guy for 5. So I know we've kind of talked about every aspect of this, Lucas, but, give me some other thoughts here on, let's project a little bit. Let's say if this is a top 3 or 6 offensive line in the Big 12. I like to say 3 because that's what Bill Still says, which whatever. But, and if the pieces do come around, so you're probably not going to go elite offense because I said top 10 in the country. You're saying I don't feel like you're probably going to go that far, or am I wrong?
I can't go. I can't go elite right now because there's so many other offenses right there that just have so much more firepower. I wouldn't really focus on being elite. I would focus on being better than you were last year when you had no answer at quarterback. Your offensive line was in the doldrums. the quarterback situation was so bad when you're on your fifth string quarterback at the end of the season. You've got to improve from 110th. It can't get any worse. If you can get to top 60, that's fine. West Virginia fans just want to see improvement. I'm not going over the top and saying that this is going to be an elite offense. I just don't see it. I see this team as a 5-win team, but I do think that there are games where they can play spoiler. I think that down the stretch they will be in bowl contention. I just don't know if they can get to that 6th win, because you see the last 2 games. I have them 5-5, but with Utah and you have Houston back-to-back.
We smacked last year. It was the worst team we've ever had. It's
hard. I mean, it's look. Upsets are definitely there, but I just don't. I don't know, man. I don't know if I can see a scenario where you get to that 6th win. It's got to come early in the season, though. You've got to be able to capitalize early with the momentum that you have. If you're fully healthy, I think you can get to 6 wins early. You'll take the 2 losses at the end of the year. But man, this is going to be interesting. I definitely think that this offense just needs to improve. They have to be better than they were, than the disaster that they had this past season, where they just didn't have an answer anywhere on the line of scrimmage, anywhere at quarterback. They've got to be better.
Give me your final thoughts, Carson.
Oh, Lucas, I was liking everything you were saying up until the point when you were saying they were going to be 5-5.
I got to be real.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I think you echo what a lot of people who maybe don't have to follow West Virginia every day does. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those of us that are really a lot like deep into this every single day of their lives, I just, obviously there's going to be some bias there, but I'm hearing things that I've just never heard before, ever. So like not ever, but in a long time, in over 10 years.
Well, when you were saying a top 60 offense and you just want to see as improvement as fans, I concur with that solidly. I think a ceiling for Mike Hawkins would probably be 2023 Garrett Green. I was watching the highlight tapes that Skylar Callahan was cutting up today on social media. I haven't been looking at my phone a whole lot today. And I'd seen all those same clips again, and I'm just like, Michael Hawkins looks to me like a little bit bigger version of Garrett Green, just as willing and able to throw the ball over the middle of the field. That was one thing that killed me about Garrett Green during his time in Morgantown, is just it was always, play action, throw the fade route down the sidelines, which he completed a lot of them, one of the best deep ball throwers in college football that season. But he wasn't able, and I know it had to do with injuries in 2024, but wasn't really able to, take his game to the next level. So if Michael Hawkins is already that advanced to 2023 version Garrett Green, sign me up for that in a heartbeat. With what Cam Cook's going to give you, I think where, Lucas, you're getting hung up, and I am too myself, honestly, is who's going to emerge at wide receivers. Like, I love the ground and pound, 7 seconds up at the line of scrimmage, snap the ball, let's go. Run the ball of the mid-2000s with Rodriguez and Slayton and White and Devine and Schmidt. But I also really like the air raid offense of Coach Holgerson with Greer and Sills and Jennings and Sims. So can we marry the two, or can we still incorporate some of those types of Big 12 air raid concepts? And it gives me hope, because Tyler Huff, his last year at Jack State, I think had the highest yards per completion of any passer in college football at the end of the 2024 season. So we didn't see that type of air it all up like last season with West Virginia's offense, because the offensive line couldn't give more than 3 seconds to any one of West Virginia's quarterbacks. Right. So now they're able to do that. Maybe we see the kind of offense that Coach Rodriguez had in 2024 at Jack State.
I would say, like Rich Rod said, they went out and got 3 all-conference wide receivers to bring in. So I think a lot of people may forget that. But it's a lot of – at the end of the day, it's a lot of pieces to make work in one season. That's if you want to give me my biggest hang-up, if there was going to be a reason I was going to be a less optimistic person it would be that. I personally believe the talent is there for them to be an 8 or 9 win team, but I do think that to get all those pieces to work in 1 year is really tough, and I can understand why somebody could argue against me on that. But obviously, like I said, I hear from a lot of people that are there, but once again, they're wanting to see the best in what's going on too. So I understand that as well. So
I really wish y'all would have gotten DeAndre Johnson from JSU, 6'8", 220-pound receiver.
Oh, I wish we would have too.
Oh my gosh, he is a cheat code, and I am shocked that he decided to return to JSU.
They must have paid him well. Yeah,
at JSU.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's got some NIL.
That's some backdoor money that they're getting out there in
Maybe
Alabama.
So. Maybe so. I mean, look, he's definitely somebody I would have loved to have had. He was probably the second or third player. He was probably the third or second. Yeah, because obviously Amari Grayson, first team all conference offensive lineman. I wanted him really bad. And obviously Cam Cook was first. But yeah, I definitely wanted Johnson as well. Makes me wonder if there was a reason he didn't come, but that's another story for another day. Thank you guys so much for being here, man. It's been fun. I got to go do another show here. This kid's been waiting on me in his chat. So I'm going to go make sure I go check him out. And thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first day, your first listen of the day, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we are talking about your team every single day on the #1 sports podcast network, Southern Sports Scene, Carson Fox on Mountaineer Sports. Make sure you're checking them out. They both do excellent work and really very consistent and everyday kind of thing. They're both reporting nuts like I am. So appreciate you guys for being here, and we'll see you guys on the next one, where we don't ever want you to forget the most important thing. Don't ever forget to cue those country roads.